Alright, my fellow degenerates and weirdos, I'm Alma Langlois, and today's film is warped and weird even by 1970s movie standards. So, if you're the type who needs a trigger warning... Today's sick flick is 1973's The Baby, written by A. Polsky and directed by Ted Post. It's an unsettling tale of psychosis, obsession, and arrested development. And speaking as an American, as the culture grows more and more infantile, resembling a giant daycare center overpopulated with adolescents and perpetual Peter Pan syndrome, The Baby's still got it.
But my mom says I'm cool.
The advertising campaign makes it look more like you're in store for a wacky sexploitation movie from the likes of Doris Wishman.
There wasn't enough room in Toyland to escape the terror that rocked Baby's cradle.
Who the hell was that trailer voice? It sounds like a drunk Charles Nelson Riley. Instead, The Baby is more of a psychological drama with horror elements that'd be a good candidate for a double feature with Toys Are Not for Children. Both written by Philadelphia writers. There's something dark and twisted about Philly, which is why it's one of my favorite cities.
Screw you, creepo!
Anjanette Comer stars as Ann Gentry, a concerned social worker who's assigned to the Wadsworth Baby, a grown man developmentally frozen as an infant. She takes up the case after the last assigned social worker mysteriously disappeared.
People drop out of sight, it happens.
Not very often,
Well, the police looked into it. They were satisfied.
but I'm not.
Baby lives in a decaying Victorian house with his mother and two adult sisters who are dependent on Baby's disability benefits. As Anne devotes more and more time to the case, she begins to think that Baby's infantile state is not mental or physical, but induced by his family.
There it goes. Now get the ball, baby. Come on, you remember. You remember it's fun. It's fun. It's fun. Get the ball. Get the ball. That's the way. Get the ball and bring it back. Get the ball and bring it back, baby. That's the way. Get the ball and bring it back, baby. Baby, bring the ball back. Bring it back. Baby. Bring it back, baby.
You call that progress? Even a dog can do a trick like that.
As Anne's concern for Baby devolves into obsession, she risks the wrath of the Wadsworth family. But is Anne's advocacy for Baby out of empathy, or does she have more sinister motivations? If you haven't seen this movie, I reveal nothing. Inspired by a true story in California of a girl who was kept in an infantile state as a welfare scam, The Baby, with its shot composition, sweeping melancholic score, and high-key lighting, feels like a demented TV movie. Most of the key creatives involved had worked extensively in television, and a lot of the cast, though they're not more well known for the movies they've been in, they would have been more known for TV at the time. And some of the dramatic moments in the first 3/4 of the film feel pure movie of the week.
You want him for yourself. Well, agency or no agency, you ain't gonna get him. Because Baby belongs to us. No, to me.
He belongs to himself.
Now, ordinarily in the industry, television is the dustbin for morons and unwashed assholes. If you give a TV person something authentic versus a cliche, they insist you use the cliche, and not for marketability's sake, because you're dealing with people who have the mentality of a bratty child who live in a world of make-believe. And I think they're convinced that TV cliches are reality.
This is reality. Hear that? Reality.
But instead, The Baby is one of the most twisted and perverse offerings in the 1970s, and that's saying something. The TV movie style actually lends itself to the material, making the film feel even more unsettling. There's just something about these 70s horror movies taking place in sunny Southern California with sick and disturbing things going on behind closed doors. Everything feels way more perverse thanks to the relentless sunshine.
Oh, they're way ahead out there, you know what I mean? California.
The shift into full-blown gothic horror in the film's final quarter is done pretty expertly. And I won't spoil the ending for you, but it's a doozy. A. Polsky, the creative brain behind The Baby, also wrote the screenplays for Brute Core and The Rebel Rousers, the last exploitation film starring Jack Nicholson.
How do you think you can handle that?
Polsky, though he later worked as a television writer, had a background in theater and was primarily a playwright. His work including An Umglick Lives in Brooklyn, Harry Houdini, I Love You, Custer's Last Band, and his most well-known work, Devour the Snow, a courtroom drama about the survivors of the Donner Party. Polsky knew Ted Post from their work together on TV westerns like Bonanza and The Virginian, and he approached him to direct The Baby. Post initially declined, feeling the script was too negative, but eventually accepted. Also with a background in theater, Post excelled as a journeyman director in television, particularly television westerns. Before The Baby, he directed Beneath the Planet of the Apes and Hang 'em High, the movie that launched Clint Eastwood's leading man career in American films. The year The Baby was released, Post also directed The Herod Experiment, a film inspired by a real college campus where the students were encouraged to experiment sexually with one another, and the sequel to Dirty Harry, Magnum Force. Post and Eastwood's professional relationship unfortunately deteriorated on that film, Post claiming that by then, Eastwood's ego had applied for statehood.
Man's got to know his limitations.
Last show I talked about Don't Open the Door, which had subtext about female fears of male domination, and today's movie articulates male fears of female domination.
Can you think of anything more horrible than being buried alive? Well, that's what's happened to this client. He's been imprisoned by a kind of sick love. Here's a normal, full-grown man, trapped, with no way out.
There's something here I don't understand. If he isn't seriously retarded, then how do you account for the fact that he can't walk or talk?
Negative reinforcement, some kind of consistent punishment to discourage him from normal learning.
That's a pretty serious charge.
Well, they're a pretty strange family, especially the mother. Each child is by a different man, and all of them abandoned her. Now, the last one she was married to, baby's father. And I think when he left, she just never got over it. So she's taking revenge on the only male member of the family.
Mrs. Wadsworth, because of irresponsible life choices and repeated abandonment, despises and fears men. She wants to keep her son an emasculated child so that he'll be eternally dependent upon her, never leave her, and never grow into one of the adult men she distrusts. To the women in the film, Baby is not an individual with his own wants and needs, but a possession, an object to serve their own wants and needs.
I didn't mean any harm, Mrs. Wadsworth. I just want to help Baby reach his full potential.
Are you sure that's all you want, Mrs. Gentry?
What more could there be?
The late 1960s and early 1970s brought the rise of second-wave feminism, its spokeswoman shifting from now-President Betty Friedan to CIA asset Gloria Steinem. Critics of the movement, including dissident feminists, claimed that unlike first-wave feminism, which sought equality of opportunity, that second-wave feminism included a misandrist component and was less about the equality of the sexes and more about replacing the patriarchy with a matriarchy.
Your hand is staining my window.
Sorry, man.
All right.
Sorry.
Despite being infantilized, Baby also becomes a sexual fixation for some of the characters. In a way, he becomes more sexually appealing to these particular women because he has been rendered harmless and under their control. Maybe this just predated all those rom-coms where, for some reason, women are always falling in love with a man-child.
And Mrs. Fox said, "Give me $500.
There is, of course, the most infamous scene in the film involving the babysitter, who, after a fight with her boyfriend where he's trying to pressure her sexually...
Is that all you guys ever think about? Girl likes to feel like she's something special. Now, what kind of a question is that? Of course I'm wearing panties, don't I always?
tries to calm Baby down by feeding him, and not with his bottle.
With your damn tit in its mouth, and you call that nothing? You lying bitch!
Viewers often interpret this character as a normal girl who's corrupted by a perverted environment, but when interviewed, Ted Post said he interpreted the babysitter as someone who's also abnormal, but she's better at hiding it than the Wadsworth clan. It's disturbing either way. The film portrays a world where almost everyone spent too much time riding around their spare tire. This is further exemplified by Baby's birthday party, where the guests are all these psychedelic weirdos and swinger types. I mean, inviting Michael Pataki to a kid's birthday party is grounds for child abuse.
Hi. I'd like to pay you a sincere compliment. You've got beautiful skin.
Don't tell me you're a dermatologist.
No, just a skin freak.
As for the babysitter, personally, I think anyone who would willingly get that haircut is clearly deranged. Like many horror films in the 1970s, I think The Baby also ponders the decline of the American family, a decline which leaves the children in an emotionally regressive and even psychotic state. The Wadsworth daughters, Alba and Germaine, are victims and prisoners in their own way, although unlike Baby, they've also become enablers and accomplices, perpetuators of the dysfunctional cycle. Alba has followed in the footsteps of her mother, becoming promiscuous and mean-spirited.
Baby doesn't stand. Baby doesn't walk. Baby doesn't talk to strangers.
I always feel a little bit sorry for Germaine, as played by Marianna Hill. Trapped in an isolated existence, she's coped by withdrawing from reality, living in a dissociative fantasy state. She's obviously hungry for connection with others, but her normal desire ends up being expressed in really maladaptive ways. Hill said Ted Post's direction to her was that her character was living in her own fairy tale. And there's a Cinderella imagery associated with Germaine, always in the middle of polishing or dusting or cleaning with her sparkly silver heels. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, released 2 years later, depicts a family that has degenerated with the lack of female influence, and The Baby gives us a family that has degenerated with a lack of male influence. The genders balance and complement one another, and without one another to balance, the worst tendencies of the masculine and the feminine surface and become maladaptive. Great performances by everyone in the cast, by the way. I already mentioned one of my favorites, Marianna Hill, who will be no stranger to viewers of this channel for her lead role in Messiah of Evil, as well as High Plains Drifter and Fredo's floozy wife in Godfather 2. With her wild lion's mane and those intense burning eyes, she looks like a beautiful storybook witch come to life. I think 70s filmmakers majorly missed an opportunity not casting her as Karen Black's weird sister in anything. In a time where Hollywood decadence was at its peak, Hill remained grounded, leading a healthy, upstanding life. She said, "I had gone to school with nuns in the convent who drilled some moral fiber and infrastructure into me. Luckily, I didn't get into the thick of it all like a lot of young girls did, so I didn't become a narcissistic, delusional person lost in Hollywood land. I didn't do drugs, and I didn't drink, and I didn't smoke because I was too busy trying to work. I knew that I had to do that from the time I was around 8 years old. I had a work ethic from a young age, and it came from outer space." For many years, she worked as an acting coach at Lee Strasberg's studio in London. There's more I could say about Miss Hill's life and career, but Messiah of Evil is one of my favorite movies, so more about her later.
You're not talking about that circus.
Mm-hmm. They wanted to put him in a sideshow. We should have said yes.
Are you calling your brother a freak?
Oh, Mama. I just thought it'd be better that way.
She didn't mean it, Mama.
Suzanne Zenor as Alba, Louisville, Kentucky girl. That's one of the cities I visited that I'd rank as having some of the friendliest people. Suzanne was originally cast as Chrissy for one of the 3 pilots they shot for Three's Company, before being replaced by another Suzanne.
Suzanne Summers, this is my bad side.
She worked mainly in television, being typecast as dumb blondes, before she landed a regular gig on Days of Our Lives. Later, she married and then retired from the business. Post Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, we get several horror movies featuring former Hollywood actresses from the old studio golden age as disturbed, and often grotesque characters. And in this case, that actress is Ruth Roman as Mrs. Wadsworth. Ruth, born to a Massachusetts carnival family, is mostly known for playing the Liz Taylor-esque senator's daughter in Strangers on a Train. Of the actresses approached about the role of Mrs. Wadsworth, Ted Post said Ruth Roman was the most enthusiastic about the script. With her husky smoker's voice and hardened features, it's like one of those drag queen roles that just happens to be played by a woman. I mean, I could just see Divine playing this part.
Look at this mess, Taffy! Broken glass and ketchup all over my fine furniture!
But in a role that could have easily been camp, Ruth Roman is fantastic. I think if they had cast someone like Shelley Winters, who was also doing a lot of these movies around this time, she would have gone big. And she'd probably still be flossing a lot of the scenery out of her teeth.
I'm tired of being a pussycat!
But Ruth plays the role earnestly and naturally, and she's all the more disturbing for underplaying it. She's not a monster, but a profoundly damaged woman smoldering with bitterness and resentment, who genuinely believes she's doing what's best for her children.
Special kind of mother. To sacrifice yourself all these years. Most people think it's pretty sad having a child like me. And maybe it is. But it can be a blessing.
She and her co-lead, Anjanette Comer, reputedly did not get along. The baby himself, David Manzy, attributes this to Ruth being a savvy old pro, knowing that off-screen animosity would translate to on-screen fireworks. Anjanette Comer, born and raised in Dawson, Texas, about 1 hour southwest of Dallas. She said her main interests as a young woman were playing sports and beauty pageants. She left Texas for Los Angeles at 18, studying acting at the Pasadena Playhouse, and in the 1960s, she became hot Hollywood property for her roles in The Appaloosa, co-starring with Marlon Brando, and as kooky embalmer Amy Thanatopsis in The Loved One. She seemed ready to skyrocket to stardom and was under serious consideration for the female leads in both Barefoot in the Park and Bonnie and Clyde. But Comer passed on both. She was co-starring with Michael Caine in A Funeral in Berlin, but abruptly left the film in the middle of the production. Some sources say due to illness, but Comer later revealed that her boyfriend at the time convinced her to leave the picture. The act officially torpedoed her Hollywood career. In a 1981 interview with UPI, Comer said, "At that time I was young and naive. I didn't realize a girl could have an acting career and a private life. My career didn't mean that much to me. I dropped out because my drive and ambition were gone. And besides that, I was going through an emotional breakdown. I put romance ahead of career. I was just a kid with no experience. I had no real love affairs before, and there I was, face to face with personal problems. It wasn't the guy's fault, it was mine. I hated my career and I walked away from it. I had a reputation for being crazy because I'd walked out on Funeral in Berlin. And I guess I was crazy. You see, I didn't build my career slowly like most successful actresses do. After a couple of TV appearances, I became an instant movie star. I didn't know how to handle it emotionally." Co-star Marianna Hill really liked Comer. She said there was something so sensitive and vulnerable about Anjanette. She likened her to the great British pop singer Kate Bush. I love me some Wuthering Heights. But what about the man behind the baby? Just who is David Manzy? David Manzy was born David Mooney, using his middle name as his stage surname. Another native Texan, he was born in Center, Texas, near the Louisiana border. We're getting back into brown root country with some of the cast here. Anyway, Manzy did some committed research and prep work for the role, studying children at a special school, and shaving his entire body just for the film. He spent about 14 years working in Hollywood before returning to his home state, where he spent the remainder of his working years as a San Antonio high school teacher. And now, spooky season is upon us. It's gonna be all fangs, all month. Join me next time to kick off October with Lamora, A Child's Tale of the Supernatural. And join me on Patreon for exclusive reviews. This month, Toby Hooper and Canon Films launch into outer space. It's Charles Manson himself, Steve Railsback, versus the naked space vampire in Life Force. But until next time, pleasant nightmares.